Set in South Korea, the movie takes place in a prison where Dae-ho, the leader of the Incheon gang Bepa, and Yong-hun, the leader of the Mokpo gang Zappa, fight for power to the point that the guards must suppress them with high-pressure water hoses and attacks with batons. Even so, the inmates refuse to give up and defend themselves tooth and nail. Locked up, yes, but never defeated. Upon witnessing this disaster, the prison warden, Mo Young, complains that it will ruin his chance for promotion and wishes that at least one of the criminal leaders could be transferred to another prison. However, Woon Jong, the head of security, warns him that wherever they go, they will cause trouble. Instead, Woon Jong grants both criminals special privileges just to keep the peace between them. One day, Dae-ho tries to enter the showers with a hidden blade, although a guard notices and makes it clear that even Woon Jong's agreement has its limits. Outraged, Dae-ho replies that he will never stop until he kills Yong-hun with his own hands. For now, the head of security keeps them at bay in their respective cells by sending each of them their favorite dishes. However, their peace is threatened by the news that Taek, one of the most dangerous mafia bosses in Korea, will be transferred to the prison. While the warden believes this will cause more problems, the head of security is certain that the arrival of an even more powerful predator will calm the situation. For their part, Dae-ho and Yong-hun meet in the prison yard with the intention of finally determining who is the stronger of the two. Each member of their gangs fights hand-to-hand. When one of them loses, a comrade immediately replaces him to keep the fight going until the bitter end. A fight full of brutal punches, painful holds, and flying kicks. Even the guards are enjoying the spectacle. Finally, the time comes for both leaders to face each other, resulting in a very evenly matched bout in which their gangs also get involved. That crosses the guards' limits, and they break it up again. Dae-ho ends up getting scolded by Woon Jong, who points out that he's too old to be bothered by a young gangster like Jong-hun. As punishment, he forbids Dae-ho from receiving a conjugal visit from his girlfriend unless he hands over some money. After that, the head of security receives Yong-hun and makes it clear that he must respect his elders, like Dae-ho. The next day, the fearsome Taek enters the prison, and as soon as Yong-hun sees him, he mentions that Taek looks familiar. Hearing that, Taek fixes his gaze on him, something that the young gangster doesn't like. However, the newcomer puts him in his place with a single kick. Because of this peculiar introduction, the guards assign Taek to a single occupancy cell, though Mo Young and Woon Jong promise to treat him well during his stay if he will keep Dae-ho and Jong-hun under control. Meanwhile, Dae-ho tells his men about the time he met Taek 10 years ago. Back then, Taek worked for a major mafia as a security guard, and to protect a young lady sought by a rival gang, he beat up a young Dae-ho and his colleague. Remembering this, Dae-ho warns his men that they should respect the new inmate and earn his trust. However, when they introduce themselves to him, Jong-hun's men do the same, leading to a contest for Taek's favor. Far from choosing just one side, Taek convinces both leaders to make peace. In gratitude, the head of security and the warden keep their promise to treat Taek like a king, giving him food and more. Although he refuses to fully indulge in his luxuries, the prison gangs, once rivals, soon discover they have a lot in common, and they have more fun together than ever before. Moo Jung couldn't be more pleased with this, and he assures Woon Jong that when he's promoted, he'll give him his position as warden. When the time for his farewell arrives, Moo Jong announces that he will be transferred to a women's prison and decides to go out with a bang. He invites a group of beautiful singers to entertain the inmates. In turn, the prisoners enjoy the show among themselves in a talent presentation. But not everything is happiness. After Moo Jong's departure, Woon Jong does not become the new warden. Instead, that position is filled by Pyeon-ho, a battle-hardened veteran who plans to give no respite to the inmates. As soon as he settles in, Pyeon-ho complains about the state of the prison. Woon Jong respectfully reminds him that they have just been selected as a model correctional facility thanks to the positive changes Taek helped achieve. Far from being pleased, Pyeon-ho takes offense that the head of security is proud of the inmates, even claiming that Woon Jong has become one of them. As punishment, he strikes his backside with a golf club, like in the old days. With that done, the warden reveals that he doesn't plan to stay too long, since he's only come for Taek under Pyeon-ho's orders. Woon Jong interrupts the inmates' break time and beats up one prisoner who refused to leave his cell. Surprised, Dai-ho asks what caused his change in attitude, to which he replies with a simple but forceful phrase, "New warden, new rules." While the prisoners clean the yard, the warden orders the guards to search the cells for contraband. Of course, they soon find cigarettes, erotic magazines, and other items that shouldn't be there. Consequently, the inmates are forced to shower in under 30 seconds, and they're tossed out of the bath whether they still have shampoo in their hair or not. Upon leaving, Pyun-ho asks them who owned the cigarettes, warning that if they don't confess soon, everyone's sentences will be extended. Even so, the ones who are treated worst are Taek, Dai-ho, and Yong-hun, who are thrown into individual cells simply for being the most respected among the inmates. At that point, Taek recognizes Pyun-ho's face and asks how he ended up in that place. Very calmly, the warden reminds him that he swore he would chase him down to the depths of hell. This leads us to a flashback in which we learn about Yan-ho, a young gangster who, one night while drinking with his buddies, requested some call girls. The problem was that the girl he picked for himself, Ji-ran, refused to drink alcohol, so he tried to force her to do so by beating her. The commotion attracted the club manager, Taek, who was guarding the place on behalf of the Mafia he worked for. Unfortunately, not even his presence calmed Yan-ho down, who broke a bottle and lunged at him. Taek merely stepped aside, causing the gangster to fall off the table and land right on top of the broken bottle, dying instantly. It turns out Yan-ho wasn't just any delinquent, he was Pyun-ho's son, and the reason the warden wants to take down Taek, who maintains that Yan-ho brought about his own fate. Even so, the warden managed to get him sentenced to 5 years in his previous prison and plans to keep him behind bars for the rest of his life, taking advantage of illegal items he planted in his cell. Taek cries out in frustration, earning him chains on the ceiling and another beating. Yet even so, he doesn't stop challenging the warden. Meanwhile, some prisoners pretend to faint from exhaustion so that one of them can leap over the wall. However, the guards soon catch him and punish all those involved severely. In an attempt to extend Taek's sentence, Woon-jong tries to convince Dai-ho and Jong-hun to accuse him of being in charge of contraband in the prison, though neither of the two dares to speak against Taek. The next day, Horan passes by the prison wanting to visit Taek, whom she married after being saved from Jan-ho. However, Pyun-ho brings her into his office and offers her a spiked coffee. As soon as she falls asleep, the warden takes a photo of her with her chest exposed. Then he orders his men to bring Taek, promising he'll sell his wife to a prostitution ring as revenge for what he did to his son, Jan-ho. The prisoner squirms in desperation, but there's nothing more he can do than watch, a punishment that even Woon-jong finds excessive. In the next scene, we see Pyun-ho offering parole to Jong-hun, whose sick mother is about to die, and he wants to see her one last time. To do this, he must help the warden in making Taek suffer even more. It appears he accepts the offer as he walks out of prison right under Dai-ho's nose, who can't believe they cut his 4-year sentence so quickly. Meanwhile, in the isolation block, an elderly inmate named Duok catches Taek's attention and warns him that the warden won't stop until he breaks him. But the protagonist has no plans to let that happen, so he sets out to escape prison with Duok's help, since he knows the place better than anyone. As the first step of their plan, Duok calls a guard on the excuse that Taek is dead, given that he doesn't hear any movement in his cell. When the guard opens it, he finds the prisoner on the floor, who stops playing dead so he can knock out the guard and steal his clothes. With that done, he says goodbye to Duok, promising that one day he will help him get out. Disguised as a guard and wearing a mask, Taek discreetly approaches Dai-ho and tells him about the warden's plans for his wife. Immediately, Dai-ho's men form a human ladder in an attempt to escape, i.e., the perfect distraction for the protagonist to head for the exit. Along the way, Woon-jong sees Taek's back, but doesn't fully recognize him. As soon as the guard recovers consciousness, everyone realizes Taek is gone. Bad news for the warden, who will soon receive a visit from an inspector and wants to make a good impression. At least he has a hunch about where Taek is headed, so he informs Jong-hun to be ready. He wasn't mistaken because the protagonist breaks into a club run by Jong-hun's Mafia, beating people up. Once the thugs are defeated, they tell him where their boss is. There, Taek is reunited with his battered wife, who returns to life as soon as she sees him. Unfortunately, their troubles haven't ended yet because he still has to face Jong-hun and his cronies. Realizing this is no small matter, the gangster confesses that he had no choice and even drops to his knees to beg the protagonist for forgiveness. Or so it seems, because he actually stabs him with a knife, admitting he only wanted to see his mother one last time. Even injured, Taik makes him eat dust and then runs off with Ji-ran. After fighting his way past thugs in alley after alley, the couple hides in an abandoned house, where Taik asks his wife to alert the police about his escape. With that said, he sets out to finish this matter once and for all. Coming face to face with Jong-hun, he repeatedly strikes Taik's wound, but Taik takes advantage of one of those close moves to grab the knife and use it against him. It is then that a remorseful Jong-hun puts Taik in contact with a reporter friend so the country can learn the truth about Pyun-ho. Just then, a group of journalists bursts into the warden's meeting with the inspector and asks him about these rumors. Intrigued, the inspector takes Pyun-ho's phone, discovering photos of Horan and realizing he was covering up a prisoner's escape. The warden is immediately arrested, and Won-jong won't say a word in his defense. Meanwhile, a badly wounded Taik and Jong-hun help each other return to prison to serve out their sentences. Because of the injustice committed against him, the protagonist soon earns his freedom, and he bids a fond farewell to his friends, especially Dae-ho and Jong-hun. Then he glances toward the new warden's office, where Won-jong is, and gives him a respectful gesture.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.